So it's that time. Let's go ahead and unbox our July Makers box. You will get your little thank you card with some inspiration written on there, as well as codes for printables and for a video. And I am going to take out my ordered items for next month, which I already did. And this one here is Faded Botanica. You guys, I love her roses like this. And this is another Royce paper, and this one's Floral Ledger. You may notice an extra paper in your box. This is from last month. It's just going the other way and has a little bit more. I can't wait to use it. And then by Connie, we have Lefty and Bath Night with that little mermaid. And look at this, you guys, the little napkin here actually matches my shower curtain. I love it. And then we have Flour Sack, and then we have Black Velvet and Vintage Linen. Both of those are DIY. And then we have Limestone and Soapstone from Fusion. For project number one, I am taking Bath Night by the Painted Photographer, as well as one of my frames from CNC DIY Factory. They will be linked below, as well as all of the other products I am using today. And we are going to take our vintage linen and paint our little backer board. You see me misting my wood first. That just helps the paint really glide over there and just because it's raw wood, it would just absorb the paint, and this just really gives me a better surface to work with. I'm also going to do the same to the back so that it doesn't warp. And with the frame, I am also misting it. And then we are going to go in with DIY's liquid patina in dark and decrepit to stain my wood. I will be doing both sides of this frame as well. And while I am putting the dark and decrepit on here, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Sandra, and I am the owner and creator here at Midwest Charm. I specialize in repurposed, upcycled vintage home decor and furniture, as well as all of your hobby needs. We have DIY paint, Sweet Pickins Milk Paint, Roycycled Treasures, Connie Lines and Designs, Iron Orchid Designs, and more. You can find us on our website, www.midwestcharm.co. That is linked below, as well as all of our social medias and our email address. So you can get a hold of us on any of those formats. We upload videos, or I upload videos, usually Tuesdays and Fridays, unless there is some special release or something with my schedule. And I usually let y'all know via socials what's going on. And we also have a new storefront in Hinckley, Minnesota. So make sure you guys look up our address for that. That is below as well. So as we are finishing up our frame here, I do go over this with a baby wipe just to smooth out all of the stain and there's no buildup anywhere. So I misted my rice paper and I'm going to let that sit while I start to use my crystal clear chandelier liquid patina, and I'm going to paint a really nice thick coat of this onto my whole backer board. And with rice papers, it's a little bit thicker than recycled decoupage papers, so you just want to make sure that you have enough on there to really absorb into that paper and grab it down. And then we are going to place this where we want, and you can see it's very easy to peel back up. We are going to smooth this baby out and then go over it with another coat of liquid patina. We are going to set this aside to dry thoroughly, and once it has, we are going to take our little finger sander linked below in our Amazon affiliate links. I get a very small percentage commission for anything you buy at no extra cost to you. We're going to go in a downward motion and remove the edges, and it's very, very easy. This nifty tool is also linked below. This just adds in those little spikes to hold in my board. You can glue it or use any other method you would like to as well. And you can either leave it like this or let's add some more. So I'm going in again with our vintage linen, and you can see I just put a little dab into my palette there. And then I'm going to take DIY's paint frosting and just kind of pour one little drop on top of there, and then I'm going to stir that all up. This is a paint thickener, and I want to embellish my piece just a bit. So I am going to use my thickened paint and just paint in some of these bubbles to give it more of a 3D effect. And then I do kind of go in and mess with those little bubbles and make them more um, raised, just to make sure that they really pop out. I think this was a really, really fun addition. If I were to do it again, I would probably add some of the making powders by DIY and really add in maybe a little bit more shimmer to it, because it was just a really, really pretty way to just add some detail to our picture. And y'all, I don't know, what do you think of adding that to our bubbles? I just love that little touch. And now we're going to add another. I took out my Iron Orchid Designs letterpress stamp set. I picked out the font I liked from it, and I found the letters for baths. And I'm going to put that in the upper left hand corner using my IOD black ink. And then on the bottom right hand corner, we are going to take the numbers 2, 5, and another font with a little C for the cent Stein. And we're going to add 25 cents to the bottom right hand. And again, using our Iron Orchid Designs ink. And you can see me just using a baby wipe to wipe off that permanent ink once I am finished. It needs to come off, or it just kind of goops up your stencils, and then you're not going to get as crisp of a imprint when you use them. So make sure you're washing them off after every use. If I am using a bunch of them, I tend to keep like a bowl of soapy water, and I'll just drop them in and then dry them all up and put them all away. So you can do that as well. I just like to keep those baby wipes on hand. And I am using one of the thin mounts. Those work great when you cut them up to get into all those little places and make sure everything's lined up correctly. And y'all, I still have some of these envelopes on the website. They are amazing for your letter sets. Project number 2, we are using Lefty, which is a black and white bird on a background. And I decided that we were going to go in and give this guy some color with some of our DIY paints. First thing I'm going to do is lay down the package it came in onto my table. I am going to mist this just a little bit and then put a coat of vintage linen on the back. And then I'm going to set this aside to dry. Now, I'm not sure at this point whether I was just going to stick it in a frame or if I was going to actually decoupage it. So I just wanted to be prepared for either one. And that way this is going to pop once we are finished. So we are going to do this, set it aside to dry, and while it's doing that, I'm going to go pick out some of the colors that I would like to use. So I'm going to use the vintage linen and the black velvet that came in our box, and then I pulled out some aviary. I pulled out, let me see, one of the blues. It was a really nice bright blue. I'm pulling it up on my phone here to look, you guys. I should have had this written down, and usually I do by the end. But to start with, we're going to work on those leaves, and those are most definitely aviary with a little mint chip, some vintage linen, and some white. And then for the bird, we're going to use the vintage linen, and we are going to use some, can't remember if that one is Hay Sailor. I think it's Hay Sailor, y'all. I think it's Hay Sailor. I use some cake batter for the beak, and then for our tree branches, again, I'm going to use some of the black velvet, and we are going to use, I believe it is a faded burlap on there as well, and I'm going to blend the two together. So what I do first when I am doing this method, there's paper super fibrous, so I'm going to actually go in with just plain water on my brush and get all the spots I'm going to paint wet. So you'll see me go in first. I'm not sure what I've edited out or not, but I go in first and put water on all of the leaves, and then I go back in and we'll do water on the parts of the bird, and just as I'm doing it, I will fill in those parts. And you can see I'm not filling in the whole leaf because I am going to go back in with more of the mint chip and the vintage linen so that we can blend those colors together, and they're not so, I don't want to call it harsh, but harsh. And then we are going to do the same to the leaves on the other side. And then we're going to repeat this process with our bird. I will get all the spots that I'm going to paint wet, kind of like a watercolor method. And then I will go in with my paint and then kind of blend in my different colors that I am using. I do mix them a bit more in the palette there, as you can see. And then there's water where I just dipped just to give it a little bit more movement with the paint. Let me go ahead and let you guys watch me paint this while you listen to some music. And as we are finishing up here, I am just going in with a mixture of the faded burlap, the black velvet, a little bit of water, and just kind of blending them in. Once this has completely dried, I take out a vintage brass frame because I love these things. And I decide, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and decoupage this on there. If anybody wants to use this frame for something else, they are more than welcome to just put their item on top of mine and put it back in. So we are going to just smooth this out, make sure I'm not cutting off any parts of this beautiful little piece of art we have created. And we are going to use our liquid patina and anchor this down and then go ahead and get this all on. And this will also seal in our paint on the top here so that everything is sealed in. So this is a really simple, easy project. Once this has completely dried, I'll put it in the frame and it is good to go. For project number 3, I actually did the base on all of these cheese boxes months ago. I flipped one with a rice paper, not that, I mean, like around Christmas time, maybe before. And I just went in with some liquid patina in the dark and decrepit, and I did put this on the outside only. I did not do the inside. I just wanted to have this, if I was going to paint it, to be able to just stress back to that pretty brown color and not the bright white. I like my stuff old and dark and dingy and crusty and rusty and all of the good things. So we just went ahead and put one coat on this and then let them dry. I am taking out the Botanica Ledger paper and fitting this to my top. I want to make sure it has some of those beautiful florals on there, but I also want to keep some of the script and that dingy part. I'm cutting off that excess piece so I can use that on another item. And then I'm going to kind of form this around with my mister bottle so that at one, all those wrinkles and folds come out, but two, that I have a really good idea of where my edges are going to be so that I can go ahead and cut off any more excess paper. Now that my paper is relaxed and is smoothed out a bit, we're going to go in with our decoupage medium, and I am using liquid patina by DIY. And we're going to just fold back one side of this and apply that directly to our piece. Now, our liquid patina we used before the dark and decrepit has sealed in our wood so that our crystal clear chandelier doesn't soak in as much. But I'm going to go in, put a strip of this down, and then we are going to smooth out our decoupage paper on top of that. And I usually start in the middle of it and then smooth going out. And then that removes any wrinkles. That line you see there is actually the wood panel piece that's on the lid. And then we are going to pull back the remaining until you can see your liquid patina. And then we're going to add more, and we're going to keep doing this until we have this completely down. And we will smooth out any of the wrinkles we get as we go. This method is how Royce teaches it how to do it, and it is so easy to do, and the wrinkles are very, very minimal. You can usually get them completely out. I love using this method, and this is how I teach it when I teach decoupage classes. We are putting that final coat of liquid patina on, going the same direction as our wood boards, and then I'm going to set that top aside to completely dry. And then I'm going to take out the base. And for the base, I am going to use the other recycled paper that was in there, and that one is called Faded Botanica, and I'm going to cut the strips off of both long sides of this, and we're going to use those to put on the side of our box. And we are not going to do that bottom strip, just the middle part. And I am going to start on the seam that's already in our cheese bucket. And you guys, I'm using a new setup at my new work area, and I don't quite have the camera figured out, but there is the seam I'm going to start with, and I am going to load it right here because there is still some raw bits there, and I'm going to load it with our liquid patina so that we have a really, really good anchor to start with. And I want to make sure that that flat edge is all the way flat on the base there, and then we are going to make sure this is misted so that when it dries nice, tight, and wrinkle free. And then we are going to do exactly what we did on that top. Once that first strip is down, we're going to lift up the other side. We are going to mist our paper, apply our decoupage medium, smooth it out, and then just keep on going. The only difference between this piece here and the top is this is a rounded surface. So as I am going through and putting this part down, I do go in with the scissors there and cut little lines, I would call them darts, into the paper so that it does dry flat, because it's going to dry because we're going in damp, and when it dries, it's going to shrink back up, and it can sometimes pull on an edge, and that'll help alleviate that tension and let it dry nice and flat without any wrinkles. Now, normally I would edit a bunch of this out, but I am going to actually keep this in here in full so that you guys can see me go around the whole edge. Now the only difference is on the edge here of the one paper, I did go in and pull it off into a jagged edge so that it has more of a natural tear. And this new piece going on top of it, I also did the same. We are not going in with straight lines because that will be more noticeable to your eye. You will be drawn to it. Whereas if we go in with just a natural tear on there, it's going to blend in more seamlessly and you're not going to notice it. It's not going to be glaring out at you, and it just makes for a much smoother transition. And here you can see those darts we created, which will allow it to dry flat. And once it's dry, we are going to go in with our finger sander in a downward motion and sand off all of those edges. This just makes it peel right off. So easy to do. And we are going to do the same with the base and get all the excess paper off. And then if any of those little edges are up, I will go through with our liquid patina and just go ahead and put a coat of that on there to smooth it back down. I am also going to go over the lines of the wood on that top where the panels are and distress on each of those just so that it looks a little bit older. And then I will also go in and add some dark wax along those lines and along the edges of this top. As usual, hang out to the very end here to get your final pictures, and I cannot wait to hear what you think of my projects from this month's box. I know I didn't use as much of the paint colors as I normally do, but I was able to use all four papers on these three projects, and I love how each of them turned out. So which one was your favorite? What did you think of the embellishments I added? The little bubbles for the sweet mermaid and hand painting that beautiful little bird Connie made for us. I also really love the box and using both of the papers. I don't think I've ever used both of the papers in one project before. I have to think about it, but I don't think I have. So I was really, I don't know, inspired and stepped outside of my comfort zone and just did a little bit different than what I normally do. And while it might not have been a big thing, it was small enough that I felt really good creating with this month's Maker's box. Thank you all for watching. As always, I really appreciate it. Make sure you guys leave a comment below on which item was your favorite, and we'll see y'all next time.